Good, y'all. Tesla dipped over 8%. You should know, man, you out? All them big events, that's your time to sell, not to get in. Right? The people who are smarter than you, who've been holding longer than you, they need somebody to dump on. Don't be their suckers. All right. Mom, what up? I'll be there in a few days. Yeah, Celsius is doing this thing. This is why I'm going live. I want to tell you I cut that Celsius trade. So I just made a reel about it. I cut the Celsius trade. Nothing wrong with the trade at all. Nothing wrong with the trade. Nothing wrong with the company. It's just about opportunity cost. So the opportunity cost to hold Celsius versus, like, let's say MicroStrategy, which is what I sold Celsius for, is just not there. Right? So in this Celsius trade, you could 3X. It fell from $100. You could 3X. Maybe it takes a year, but you could 3X. You put $10,000 in, you walk away with 30. You put $100 in, you walk away with 300. MicroStrategy, because they're able to borrow money at such a low interest rate and then turn around and buy Bitcoin, and then they trade as a multiplier of Bitcoin. When Bitcoin moves, we can get a 10X from MicroStrategy, right? And then they kind of position themselves. So therefore, if anybody were to copy their strategy, they benefit from it, right? So if they own 250,000 Bitcoin, 250,000 Bitcoin, and let's say Facebook comes in or Meta comes in and they want to do the same thing, well, they're going to have to buy 250,000 Bitcoin, which might cost $40-50 billion, which sends the value of Bitcoin up, which means MicroStrategy gets wealthier. So I've kind of realized that they've put themselves in like this situation where they're only going to win. 500 shares of MicroStrategy at 153. Good shit, bro. Buy more Bitcoin. Yeah, I bought more Bitcoin 2 days ago. I bought half a Bitcoin 2 days ago. I buy almost every day. Lito, what up? All right, the Bitcoin mining. Oh yeah, let's talk about that. So there's two aspects of Bitcoin, right? There's Bitcoin the asset. There's two aspects of Bitcoin. Bitcoin the asset and Bitcoin the network. So Bitcoin the asset, you're like, all right, I'm looking at this thing because it's store value, right? I'm tired of my dollar falling. They keep making more and more dollars. And they keep making more and more dollars, so the value of my dollar is falling, right? So I need something to store my money in that they can't just keep making more of. Boom, you go find Bitcoin, you find out how it works, you find all that good stuff. That's Bitcoin the asset. Bitcoin the network is the nodes and the miners that are running and keeping this thing up and going, right? So as I like start diving deeper and down into the network, you start to realize like, oh, people are running nodes, and what nodes do is they validate transactions. So you can use your computer because you need computing power to keep the network up, right? So you can use your computer as a node and it validates all the transactions. So if I want to send you a Bitcoin, nodes have to validate that I have the Bitcoin to send to you, right? So then they're just keeping a list of all these transactions. They hand them over to the miners. The miners are these computers that are trying to crack this mathematical code. And if they crack the code, they get a reward, right? Which is like 3 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. So whichever miner cracks the code, they upload that block to the blockchain, they get the reward, boom, right? So you realize there's this big network of people who are working to keep the system protected and afloat. And it makes you like respect what has been built, you know? So I got some small miners. I'm gonna show y'all. These are called bit axes. It's called a bit axe. So I got these little small miners. So what these miners are doing, they're trying to crack the mathematical code, right? So they're trying to crack this mathematical code. The more, and even if these bit axes right here don't crack the code and I don't get a reward, right? I don't get the block reward. What happens is the more computing power it takes to attempt to crack the code, then the math problem gets harder and harder and harder, right? Because you have to think, Bitcoin was released in 2009. The computing power we have as a world and as a country is way better than or faster than it was in '09. So what it takes to crack that math problem has to get harder, and that's called the difficulty adjustment. So if all these computers are trying to solve this math problem, the math problem gets harder and harder and harder. If there's less people trying to solve it, it'll get slightly easier. Therefore, there's a block mined every 10 minutes. So it creates a time chain. So here's 10 minutes go by, here's a block with all this information in it. 10 minutes go by, here's a block with all this information in it. And then you just create a chain. It's fucking dope, man. Chris, I'm about to get my third Bitcoin, but I don't know if MicroStrategy is a better move. I'll go ahead and get the Bitcoin. So I look at Bitcoin like a savings account, and then I'll look at MicroStrategy like an investment, right? So the money that you want to put away for the future, like to be safe and sound, Bitcoin, right? You want to get a little bit more risky, MicroStrategy. So to give you a perspective, my Bitcoin position is over $11 million, and then my MicroStrategy position is like 25 grand. So it's nowhere near like comparable. So while you're working on those first, cracking that third Bitcoin, just go ahead and get the Bitcoin. Got half a Bitcoin working as a teacher in the inner city, Chicago, Wells School, changing lives. Dope. Good shit, bro. All right, now let's talk about storing your Bitcoin. All right, so whenever you can use Swan, like I use Swan to buy, I'll use Kraken to buy, I'll use Coinbase every once in a while to buy. You can buy your Bitcoin there, but you don't want to store it there, right? Because that's not your Bitcoin. Right? It's kind of like parking your car in somebody else's garage. It's cool as long as they give you access to that garage, or as long as they've been paying their lease with the, commercial real estate spot. And the moment they change those locks, then you're fucked. The BitX miners are like $150 each. But I just wanted to set them up just to see, how all this stuff is working. All right, so anyway, Swan, Kraken, Coinbase, Robinhood, all these places, they're cool to buy some Bitcoin, but then you need to take self-custody, right? You need to park your car in your own garage. So you can do that with a ledger. So I'll show you what a ledger looks like. You could do that with a ledger. You could do that with a treasure. You could do that. Let me show you. So this little thing right here is called a ledger. A treasure, right? You can buy one of these and you can keep your Bitcoin yourself. Because what happens is, let's say you put your money in Coinbase, or you keep your Bitcoin in Coinbase, and Coinbase goes under, right? Now you're fucked. Right? So the saying in Bitcoin is not your keys, not your coin, right? If you don't have the keys to that Bitcoin, you don't have access to that Bitcoin, you don't have the seed phrase to that Bitcoin, then it's not yours. You're parking your car in somebody else's garage. So get you a ledger, get you a treasure, get you a card wallet or a cold card like this. Boom, you can get you one of these, right? Cold card, treasure, ledger, whatever. And then you send your Bitcoin from Coinbase to Ledger, from Swan to your card wallet. How do you learn to transfer your coin to Ledger? All right, if you go on Coinbase and you're going to see, all right, you have Bitcoin, you have half of Bitcoin, you press send, and then it's going to ask you for an address. And you go in your Ledger and you press receive, and then you copy and paste. So you're receiving from, here, let me show you. All right, here's a ledger account, all right? So boom, you got your ledger set up, you hit receive, boom. Then you want to receive Bitcoin, right? Boom. You got to unlock your device, put your password in, and then a long ass number is going to pop up. Just hit copy and then go to your Coinbase and hit receive and then paste it. Send and paste it. It's very, 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 very simple. It's very simple, right? Now, what you don't want to do is you don't want to try to type that code out yourself, right? So it's a long ass address. You don't want to try to type it out yourself. Just copy and paste it. Send, receive. You're sending from one place, you're receiving. It's crazy because in a way, I almost feel like they kind of dumbed us down as humans to make it seem like we can't do simple shit, right? You go on Coinbase and you hit send. And then it's going to say, what address do you want to send it to? And you go to Ledger and then you hit receive and it gives you the address. It's simple, right? Like, it's crazy because I feel like I'm not dissing anybody who's like, I'm just saying like the concept is very simple, but then they kind of scare you off. So therefore, like, yeah, bro, that shit's complicated. Let me hold your Bitcoin because it's too complicated. Like, no, it's not, bro. If you could operate a car, you can set up self-custody. Right? It's very simple. It's like, dog, copy paste. Right? So I'm not dissing y'all. I'm just letting y'all know that sometimes like the idea of all this stuff that we're saying, we're so used to handing over responsibility to other people. Hey, Bank of America, you hold my money. And that's cool until they don't give you access to your money. Like I got kicked out of Navy Federal before, right? Like I don't have a Navy Federal account anymore. I got kicked out. I'm calling to make wires to Coinbase every day, right? This is like 2021, 2022. But I'm wiring like $80,000, $100,000 a day. And I'm wiring it to Kraken actually. And they like, yo, what is this for? I'm like, investments. I just keep it short. It's for my investments. Oh, do you know the third party? Yes. Have you sent it before? Yes. But you have to call them every day, right? So then one day, one of the security ladies, she's like, oh, so where's the money coming from? I'm like, my companies. And she's like, what kind of companies you have? And I'm just like, explain to her, like, yeah, like e-commerce companies, like educational companies, blah, 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 like that. And then she's like, oh, that's cool. So she's like trying to make it seem like she's my friend. She's like, oh, that's cool. What do you teach people about? I'm like wealth. And she's like, yeah, what about it? And I'm like, just stocks, real estate, Bitcoin. She said, oh, you have a Bitcoin company? Boom, they kicked me out. Kicked me out of Navy Federal, right? So then it's like a long 3-week process to go get my money from them, but I still have credit cards and shit with them. So now I have to drive to Navy Federal, pay my credit cards. And you're like, damn, this shit is kind of crazy. Like that your money is your money as long as they give you access to it, right? And then as you start learning about Bitcoin, you start realizing like you have $10,000 in cash. That's your money. You put it into the bank. That's their money now, right? And you have to learn that. You have to understand that. And they'll give you access to it until they don't. Same thing applies with Bitcoin. The paper Bitcoin that you have on Coinbase is theirs. They'll give you access to it until they don't, right? But if I have my money on this thing, I can send it wherever I want to send it. And that's the whole purpose of this stuff. It's permissionless. Yeah, so this was all over Bitcoin. They said that I'm running a Bitcoin business. And I'm like, no, it's an educational business. Like, we don't even transact in Bitcoin. She heard that, it was a wrap. My business partner got kicked out too. All right, that's a good question, Donnell. How do you make sure your kids protect what you leave behind? Well, it starts with education, bro. It starts with education. Most of this stuff is education, right? Your kids have to understand what it is that you're building or what it is that you're doing. And they need to understand this at a very early age. right? They need to understand this at a very early age. So something I do with my daughter, for example, is whenever we go buy stuff, and I told you guys this story before, but I'll keep telling you because she gets it. You know, she's 6 years old. She gets it. We go to the store. Let's say we go to Target, and then we get whatever from Target. And I go, like, let's say it's a toy. Yo, like, Riley, where we get this toy from? Target. Well, did we walk in and just get it, or do we have to buy it? No, you have to buy it. You can't just walk in and take it. Well, if we had to buy it, where'd the money come from? You had the money, but how'd I get the money? Right? And you just make, kids are naturally curious, bro. So she can say, no, you have the money. And I'm saying, well, where'd I get the money from? Did somebody just give me a bunch of money, or like, where'd I get the money from? No, you got the money from your job. Like, oh, what's my job? Oh, you sell stuff to people. What do you sell? Oh, you sell watches, you sell this, you sell memberships. Like, so kids have to like just reverse engineer to figure out where this money came from, because your children need to understand that the path to wealth is creating value. You need to provide something for somebody, a service, a product, or information. You need to provide that to somebody in exchange for money. You make their life easier, they give you money. I might make your life easier by helping you find a gift for your dad, so you buy a watch from me. Cool, boom. We exchange my watch for $100. I might make your life easier by teaching you how to invest. You give me $30, boom, I give you the education, right? It's an exchange of value. Then you can take that value and you can go spend it. So your kids need to understand that first, right? And then once they have like a good grasp on that, then you start showing them or telling them what you spend your money on, right? So when I first moved to Houston, I bought a house by IAH, and then I was using that house for Airbnb. So I would take her to the house, right? And then we would drive by the house, and then I'd be like, oh man, there's somebody at our house. Like, there's cars at our house. What are they doing at our house? Oh, they're staying there for a few days. Like, why are they staying at our house? How come we're not staying at our house? No, we're going to go stay over here, and they're going to stay at our house because they need somewhere to stay. Why do they need somewhere to stay? I don't know. Maybe they're traveling, right? These are conversations. I started when she was like 3, and now she's 6. She gets it, right? No, sometimes people come into town and they need somewhere to stay, and they don't want to stay at a hotel so they can pay us. And then I say, okay, so if they're paying us and we have their money, should we spend our money or should we spend their money? Right? And then you kind of like, you start off by having to lead them like, well, if we spend their money, we can save our money, and then we could just go spend their money. Like, all right, let's go to Target and spend their money. Let's go to Jump House and spend their money. This is just natural like conversations that you have with a kid. And you start beating it into their brain, right? Very, very, very early on. Now I say that to say this, that when your kid is 16, 17, 18 years old, and I always see people saying like, oh, my kid's first car is going to be a beater car because I want them to understand how to work their way up, blah, blah, blah. You're like, so you're going to buy a kid a car that could leave them stranded, 40 miles away because you want to teach them about money right now. Like right now, today's the day to teach them about money. So you bought them a piece of shit car when you could have been teaching them the whole time. But you can't teach them the whole time if you don't understand yourself. So you need to backwards plan, right? And you need to reverse engineer where the fuck does money come from. It's almost like we live in this society where we exchange money all the time, but we don't even know what money is. We just exchange it. Like as soon as you come like out of the womb and out of school, they're like, all right, go get you some money. You never stop to think like, what is money or how do I get it? Right? So because you never stop and ask that, you don't realize that companies are selling products, services, or information, and then you just help them. But if you want to get closer to the money, you have to sell the product or service or information yourself. Example, I bought this mic from Best Buy. All right. So there's a company that reached out to a microphone manufacturer in China somewhere and say, yo, make me these mics. Here's my design. Then they make the mics, right? And let's say they make the manufacturer makes these mics for like $10. Now this company has 100,000 mics that they paid $10,000 for, but you could do it on an individual scale and get 100 of these made for $10, right? So boom, that's, $1,000. And then you go into Best Buy and you say, hey, I'll sell you these mics. Like, this is what they're good for, blah, blah, blah. Best Buy have buyers that go to, different like conferences or whatever to buy things, right? So you go to Best Buy and you're like, yeah, I'll sell you these mics for $50. You got them made for 10, you sell them for 50. Best Buy buys them for 50, they sell them to you to 100. That's the flow of retail, right? Now the flow of retail has been disrupted with the internet because now I can get this made for $10 and sell it to you for $100 directly. Now I don't need Best Buy to buy 100,000 units from me. If I get 1,000 people around the internet to give me $100 for this microphone, I don't need a job anymore. Or I could keep my job and take that side money and invest it. That's the flow of retail. This is what I've been trying to tell y'all since 2014, right? So in 2014, I realized that. That's why I started the watch company. I'm like, oh, if I have watches, people need to go to Zoomies to buy my watch. They could just find me on Instagram. And then, but imagine in 2014, people are like, yo, bro, why are you trying to sell things on the internet? Like, that's weird. I'm like, nigga, you don't see that if you put a bunch of people in a room, eventually they're going to talk about business or talk about money. Or imagine 2014, 2015, talking about money on the internet was taboo. Talking about money in public was taboo, but I'm like, nah, I'm going to do it because we need to talk about this shit. Right? So you start working and working and working towards the future. And then when the rest of society catches up, boom, you got wealthy. Right? So you start building the skill and the knowledge. And then when the rest of society catches up, you get wealthy. That's the plan. Right? You work towards where life is going, not where life is. Because if you walk into Amazon, right, or you know me and I'm selling this or you walk into Best Buy, or you know me and you see that I'm selling this microphone, and then you watching this right now, you're like, yo, Chris is selling this microphone, I'm gonna go get the same one. Well, you have to think, I thought about this microphone 3 years ago. So if you're copying what I'm doing right now, this is my idea from 3 years ago. Right? So now you're chasing an idea that I had 3 years ago. What am I doing right now that's going to take us into the future? Right? So that's exactly how Bitcoin works. Right? Or that's the exact concept of Bitcoin. Right? That dude Naval, he's like a tech investor / like philosopher or whatever. But he says like the key to wealth is giving people what they want before they know they want it. Right? So you're going to buy Bitcoin, you're going to hold it, and people eventually are going to realize why they need it. Not if they need it, why they need it, right? The dollar is for sure going down. And when y'all are willing to spend $5 million to get one Bitcoin, when this corporation or this country wants to spend $5-10 million for a Bitcoin, here's a Bitcoin I bought for $7,000. I'll sell you one, but I got a lot more. Right? So you work towards where society is going, not where it's at, because where it's at is just a product of everyone else's past, right? I'm on this iPhone talking to you guys on Instagram. These are ideas from people's past. All right. Let me read some of these comments. All right, whoever bought the shirt and the candle, I'm going to put this in the group chat so we can get it sent out to you. All right, another thing, too, why I say Bitcoin and no other coins, because y'all know I used to trade crypto. I used to be into the whole crypto thing, and then it really hit me one day that, like, crypto itself is a scam. What they're doing is copying what Bitcoin has built, and then they're just, like, copy and paste and then get rich off of you. All right? Get the Nano Ledger X. All right, so check this out. So what makes Bitcoin special? Remember I was talking about the network of Bitcoin earlier? What makes Bitcoin special is that it's connected to real world things. If Bitcoin only existed on the internet, it wouldn't be valuable, right? It's almost like, all right, if the Mona Lisa was a PDF, it wouldn't be valuable because people would just copy and paste it and then boom. Right? So what makes the Mona Lisa special is you required real world things to create it. You needed a human. The human had to have skill and intelligence, a paintbrush, all these things, right? So this thing that's sitting there in the Louvre in Paris is valuable because somebody with intelligence did something, right? Now, a coin, let's say Bitcoin, and it's open source, anybody can just copy it and then paste it and then call it fuck coin, right? And then you go take your hard-earned dollars that you made sitting in traffic and working and dealing with your punk-ass boss every day. You take the reward that you got for spending your time and your labor, which is your money, and you go buy fuck coin, right? All they did was copy and paste something, and then maybe they paid an influencer to talk about it, and then boom, the value went up. But imagine if I make 100,000 coins and I keep 25% of it for myself. I pay this person to talk about it. I pay this person to talk about it. The value of it goes up and I dump my coin, right? I just finessed everybody. So I got to start off with 25% of the entire supply, and then you send the value up and then I dump on you. That's what goes on in crypto, right? So if Bitcoin only existed on the internet, it wouldn't be worth much. Now, remember when I talked about nodes and miners earlier? So you have to think, nobody can snap their fingers and make a fucking computer appear out of nowhere, right? I have a computer right here. This is like, I have to spend my money on it. This computer is running a node, right? Then I have the miners over there. Those miners are just like a small little motherboard computer. So, and all these things require what? Me to have a house in order to have electricity, in order to run the computer. So the Bitcoin is backed by the human ability to draw electricity. You get what I'm saying? Does that make sense? It doesn't only exist on the internet because you have to mine Bitcoin, right? So Bitcoin is like, so a good way to explain it is like gold. Gold is like, let's say, stuck in a rock and you have to mine it out, which means you need human power. You need an axe, you need strainers, you need people. And then once you find the mine, then you need people to protect it or somebody else is going to run your shit. So you need real world things to go get that gold out. Bitcoin is stuck in time, right? And every 10 minutes, somebody is digging it out. But in order to dig it out, you're going to need a computer. You're going to need a miner. You're going to need electricity, right? It takes energy. So it's just not out of nowhere. But imagine if I were to just copy and paste the Bitcoin code and then say, this is called fuck coin, you should buy it. Or buy it because this influencer said buy it, or buy it because this Discord said buy it, or buy it, whatever. So I didn't kind of like grasp the concepts. I'm like, oh, this is why people just keep launching coins. It's the same developers that'll launch a coin, get rich off of it, launch a coin, get rich. You don't even know who they are. They're just putting this shit in all these different Discords, on Twitter, all this stuff. What's the point of Bitcoin ATM when you can just purchase it? Yeah, there is no point. But the point is somebody's going to try to find like a cheap way to do it. It's just arbitrage, bro. It's the same thing. If you think about it, a Bitcoin ATM is the same thing as Coinbase. Coinbase is either going to make money on or strike or anything. It's just, they're just playing on a spread. So Coinbase is going to make money off of a fee. So if you want to buy $100,000 worth of Bitcoin, they're going to charge you 1%, or they won't charge you a fee at all. But the price of an actual Bitcoin is, let's say, $60,000. But then when you go to buy it, they're going to charge you $60,250, and they're going to keep the spread. That's what a Bitcoin ATM does. Yeah, just download some app and buy it there. You don't have to hit a Bitcoin ATM. That makes no sense. But it's the same thing. They're just playing on a spread. All right, I never understood if Bitcoin has a limited quantity of 21 million, how can we mine it? So there's 21 million Bitcoin, but only 19 million of them have been mined. So there's still 2 million left. So every 10 minutes, someone is mining a Bitcoin. And when they mine the Bitcoin, they upload the transactions to the blockchain, right? So, hey, you did this work, you mined it. You're storing this information, these blocks, it's like a ledger, right? So imagine if you bank at Bank of America, you have $1,000, then you spend 200 at Target. Now you have 800. So you started with 1,000, now you have 800. Then you spend 200 on a camera. So now you have 600. And then it's just keeping track, right? That's a ledger. That's what the blockchain is. They're just keeping track of a public ledger. So I'm going to show you. So anyways, so there's 2 million left to get mined. So every 10 minutes, someone's mining a little bit of it, a little bit of it, a little bit of it, a little bit of it. As you creep towards, there's none left to be mined, right? Now those miners, they have to pay for electricity to run their miners. So they usually sell the Bitcoin that they mined into the open market, right? So that's why when we have a halving, when how many Bitcoin are being mined every 10 minutes or every day falls in half every 4 years, now you have less selling pressure. At the end, the price goes boom. So you have more and more buyers and you have less and less sellers. Hold on, I'm about to show y'all something. So anyways, so you either mine Bitcoin or you buy it from somebody who already has it. But you can't snap your finger and make it appear out of nowhere, right? Which is proof of work. Somebody had to do the work. It's like if you have a child If you have a child, right, that's like proof of work. Somebody had to make love to make the kid. They can't just snap their fingers and appear out of nowhere. But imagine if you could snap your fingers and make some type of robotic kid appear out of nowhere. That would be like a shitcoin, right? But me being alive is proof that my parents did what they did. All right, hold on. All right, so look, this is like a visual representation of all the blocks, right? So it's a blockchain, right? So there's a chain of what's going on, and every 10 minutes a new one appears. This is who mined the block, right? This is how many transactions were in that block, right? So you can see, you can go all the way back to the beginning. In the Bitcoin white paper, they describe it as a time chain, not a blockchain, right? Because you can go all the way back into time and see. You can swap the order of it too, right? You can go all the way back to the first block ever mined. So there's 4,635 transactions in here. So everything that you do is just going to be sent into cyberspace to be stored forever, right? And this is the fee that they got for mining the Bitcoin. So the person that mined this block, which is Maro Pool, they got this fee. They got 3 Bitcoin. They got the subsidies plus the fee. So they got $225,000 for mining this. So they're a pool of miners, and they're using their mining computers, their computation power, to try to crack this code. Oh, look, another block just got mined. Boom. So imagine if this was like a history book. Imagine if you can go all the way back to the beginning of time and then you have Jesus' birth certificate, right? So then you wouldn't have to know, like, was Jesus born or not? Like, yeah, he was born. Here's his birth certificate. All the nodes, the 67,000 nodes across the world, like, validated that this birth certificate is real. So now we go all the way back to in time and prove that Jesus was born, right? Think about that. Right. But if you were to use, like, let's say traditional media, well, whoever controls the media could say whatever. You could say a meteorite hit Arizona yesterday. And then everybody in Arizona is going to say, no, it didn't. No, it didn't. But 200 years from now, when they find that news article, they're going to say, look, a meteorite hit Arizona, even though the people in the real world said, no, it didn't. You know what I'm saying? That makes sense? All right. So someone said, if Coinbase isn't trustworthy, where should we get Bitcoin from? You can get your Bitcoin from Coinbase. Don't keep it with Coinbase. Just get it from Coinbase. All right. Another thing, too, about. So Bitcoin, this is why I say Bitcoin only, right? Hold on, let me read some of these questions. All right, someone said, how did you convince your close friends to jump? So the people who are closest to me, all the people who are closest to me became Bitcoiners too. So what I did was I just talked to them about this. Slowly but surely, I talked to everybody about this. And I say, like, damn, bro, like, isn't it crazy we got to keep making money? And the reason why you have to keep making money is because the value of your money is falling. Why is the value of the money falling? Because they keep printing more. Who's printing it? The Federal Reserve. Why do they print it? Because the government wants to borrow it. Why does the government need to borrow money? So they can keep expanding. They can keep spending. And they're just a series of conversations. And I gave all the people closest to me like a challenge, like, hey, man, read this book. I might even give you, half a Bitcoin or whatever. Just read this, do this, do this, do this. But the thing is, it's kind of hard to deny something when you realize that had you paid attention from the moment I told you, you would be significantly more wealthy, right? So for y'all who've been following me, who haven't, like, sat down and read a book about what I'm talking about, just last year. So let's say you're trading stocks and I'm like, yo, let's slow down on the trading. Put your portfolio on the Bitcoin. This is why. Go read, blah, blah, blah. Eventually you'll make sense, right? So let's say you're like, nah, Chris, I'm good. I don't trust this. I don't know this. But you have your portfolio and it's worth $50,000, right? Your $50,000 portfolio would have tripled from the time I was telling you, like, yo, I'm going all in. So if you're trading around that portfolio and it hasn't tripled in the last 24 months, you're wasting your time, right? Or think about it like this. Let's say you can only afford to put $100 a month, $100 a week in a Bitcoin. You put $100 a week, 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 $100 a week. 10 years from now, Bitcoin is worth 15 times more. Now, when you look back at your 2024 paycheck, you were really putting $1,500 a week away. So imagine what your life would look like if 10 years ago, your $100 you were putting away is now worth $1,500 a week. And you're like, damn, the money I put away, that little $100 was more than what I was making in a week. Because maybe if you're in a situation where you can only put $100 a week in, you don't make $1,500 a week. But as your investment grows, it outpaces your income. This is what Bitcoiners have been trying to tell us for the last 10 years, but I don't think they were kind of like putting it out in blank terms. One, and two, it's because nobody will tell you how many Bitcoin they have. So it's hard, especially like us black and brown folks. We need to see. Like, I know it's a security risk for telling you how many Bitcoin I have, but I do it anyways, right? So, but these people, they won't. So they'll just say like, yeah, you should buy Bitcoin. Yeah, you should buy Bitcoin. And then you have to put it together in your mind. Like, if this dude spent $10,000 on Bitcoin at $100 a coin, right? Say has 1,000 Bitcoin. What is 1,000 Bitcoin worth right now? But he's not going to tell you I have 1,000 Bitcoin, right? They're just going to talk about the price. And yeah, it's only $43 right now. You should buy some. Oh, it's only $500 right now. You should buy some. So that's why I was showing you guys my ledger when I had my Bitcoin in my ledger. That's why I was showing you, like, look, this shit is growing. Like, this is going to make life easier for you. Now, back to the scenario where the person is only putting $100 a week in, right? You're putting $100 a week in, and then 10 years later, you look back and you're like, damn, that 100 a week really became 1,500 a week. Now I'm kind of good, right? This eliminates the needs for side hustles. This eliminates the needs for rental properties, for Toro, for all this shit. So now what happens is you create a situation where you go to work or you own your business, whatever you do, you make money doing something you actually enjoy, and that's the end of it. No side hustles, no fucking flipping cars, no flipping computers, none of this shit. You just go to work and enjoy your time the way that life used to be lived. Life can't be lived that way anymore because the value of the dollar keeps falling, right? So if you agree to work for this company, let's say you're like a software engineer, you agree to work for this company for $100,000 a year. And then when you get that money, you go spend it in the economy, but it's only worth, you can only buy $80,000 worth of things, right? So you were being robbed. But you're not going to think, oh, they robbed me because they agreed to give you 100 and they gave you 100. But if that 100 only buys you $80,000 worth of stuff because all the goods and the services went up, you were robbed 20%. It's no different than if they give you 100, you can spend 100, but then they just take 20 grand from you, right? You were being robbed either way it goes. So the way life used to be lived before 1971 is you just go to work. One man goes to work, takes care of his wife, his 3 kids. That's it, right? But as the value of the dollar start falling and falling and falling and falling and falling, now you need, hey, babe, I can't be the only one work. You got to get a job now. Which means you can't teach the kids. Now we got to send them off to a school, or now we got to do this. And then after work, I'm going to go drive Uber. And then you got to go, I don't know, do whatever on the side, right? But imagine if you have a savings account that keeps growing 30% per year, 40% per year, right? 30% per year times 3 years, your money doubles every 3 years, right? So imagine your saving account is doubling every 3 years. It pulls back a little bit, but then eventually doubles. You're back to one income. Right? So Bitcoin has like a unique way of helping rich people and poor people at the same exact time. Poor people need a way to create more money, right? So your value is growing. It's going to outpace whatever you make at your job. You just have to put some of it away and wait. 2, rich people need a place to store their money. I live in this house because I'm storing my money in this fucking house, right? But what's a better store of value? This house cost me $50,000 a year in taxes. But if I would have took that money and put it in Bitcoin, there's no maintenance on the Bitcoin. There's no property taxes on the Bitcoin. I don't need to pay to maintain my own Bitcoin. Does that make sense? Book recommendations. All right, please tell me where you hold your Bitcoin because I keep mine in an exchange wallet because of the incident I had with Ledger. All right, so that leads to another conversation about volts. So if you get over the, let's say $50,000 worth of Bitcoin mark, then you should probably look into a vote, right? A multi-signature vote. It's called a multi-vote, right? A multi-sig vote. So what a vote is let's say you have a ledger. With the ledger, you have a seed phrase and you have a password, right? So you have like a password, you can put it in your ledger and send your Bitcoin. If you lose that ledger, you can back it up with your seed phrase, which is 24 words. That means one signature moves your money, right? You sign once, your money moves. You put your password in, your money moves, all right? Single signature. Put your password in one time, the money moves. One signature, all right? There are votes out there, multi-sig votes. Unchained Capital has one and Casa has one. And what these multi-sig votes do is now you need multiple signatures to move your money, right? So there's 2 out of 3 votes and there's 3 out of 5 votes. So let's say a 3 out of a 5, right? So that means there's 5 different signatures that exist for this vote, for this treasure chest of your Bitcoin, and you need 3 signatures to move this. Your 3 signatures could be 3 different ledger wallets, right? So you keep one. They keep one. So let's say you're using Unchained. So Unchained has one of your signatures, right? Your second signature might be your phone. And then your other 3, because there's 5 of them, the other 3 might be a card wallet, a treasure, and a ledger. So you have these 3. Now, in order for you to move your Bitcoin, you need to sign 3 times, which means they have one of your keys, but they can't sign without you, right? So let's say the government were to subpoena this company and they say, hey, give me that person's, give me their key, right? I know you have one, give it to me. Cool. They still can't move your money because you need 3 out of 5, right? So this is kind of like as you get more and more money, you need to look into these things, right? So then you end up creating a situation where nobody can move your money, touch your money, or freeze your money without you, right? Kanye said the Jews run the media and they seize his bank accounts. And that nigga was a billionaire. What would they do to your ass for wrong think? You know what I'm saying? All right. So with this multi-sig vote, 3 out of 5. So they even have inheritance plans. So I can give, let's say, my brother some encrypted code. He's on my inheritance plan. It's like an encrypted code, but it means absolutely nothing. And then I die, right? So then when I die, he goes to Unchained or to Casa and say, hey, my brother died. I'm, on his inheritance plan, blah, blah, blah. They're going to try to contact me for 6 months. They can't contact me. Then his vote will turn into a key. So they have one. He has one. And I'll tell him where one of the third ones are. Now he can move my money without me. No inheritance tax. Think about that. Right? Think about if you, or your dad, let's say your dad went out in his life. He worked in the jungle. And he just went and he collected all this wood and all these fruits. Pretend fruit doesn't perish, right? He's collecting all this. Now he's an older man. He gets sick and he dies. Now imagine people show up and they say, hey, I know your dad collected all those things. And you have wood to make a house and you have all those things. We need half of it. You can be like, damn, what you really did was stole his time from him because it took him a lot of time to gather all these things. And then you come and just take it, half of it, right? So imagine that. That's what the inheritance tax is. But the reason why things are set up that way is therefore you have to keep working, right? If you can own something, what Bitcoin taught me is it changed my definition of ownership. I don't own this house, right? Like on paper, I own this house and I own it in cash, right? But if I don't pay the property tax, the government will take it from me. So do I own it? Do you own something that somebody can take from you, right? no, you don't. You're renting it from the government, right? And this is something I own it in cash, but if somebody can take it from me, I don't own it. If I own my cars, but I have to keep paying to register them, I'm renting them from the government, because the moment I don't register, they're either going to take them or make it so I can't drive them, right? So it made me question ownership, right? If I can't pass it down to my children, hold on, let me back up a little bit. Now, let's say we live in a country where I own this house and there are no property taxes, right? Therefore, the government can't take it from me. And then I die. My children will grow up here, and then they'll become old and they'll die. And their children will grow up here and they'll become old and they'll die, right? And they just have to worry about paying, like, the water, the electricity, blah, 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 right? So with that being said, if that's the way that the system were set up, you would live in the house your great-grandparents bought. Your great-grandparents lived somewhere. Why don't you live in that house? Because what happens is the cost of living goes up and up and up. They have to cash out of their asset, which is their house, to sell it, to either keep up or to pay this or to use the money for something. Or maybe the property taxes keep increasing. They can't afford it anymore. They sell it, move somewhere else. That means that your grandparents have to start over, which means your parents have to start over, which means you have to start over, right? But if you own something in perpetuity, you own something forever. Think about how if I own Bitcoin and when I die, my children get Bitcoin, and then when they die, their children get Bitcoin, and when they die, their children get Bitcoin, and they die, their children get Bitcoin. That means I go out into the forest and I collect all this shit, and it's going to last forever unless somebody sells it, right? So it made me change my definition of ownership. Does that make sense to y'all? So you create a system where people have to keep participating in the system. If this was a system where you wanted people to keep what they worked for, you wouldn't tax the shit out of them. And then you wouldn't keep increasing the tax. Them increasing the tax is saying, hey, get back out there and go to work. Oh, you can't? You're old? Cool, your children have to do it. Or sell it and then let somebody else start over. All right, so the next thing is, Bitcoin didn't just appear out of nowhere in 2009. This is like 40, 50 years in the making, right? There's a group of people called the cypherpunks who've kind of like identified in the 80s and the 90s and in the 70s that the government will use, eventually the government was going to use technology to crack down on people, and they needed to beat them to the punch and use technology to set people free, right? And the biggest problem that we have in the entire world is money. Right? And we don't realize it's money because we say, no, it's this, or no, it's that. No, it's wars. No, it's all this stuff. Well, imagine how hard it is to go to war. Let's say I'm a country, right? Money used to be backed by gold. Let's say I'm a country and I want to go to war. And I'm looking at my stash of gold and I say, fuck, if I want to buy some guns and get a bigger army and get some tanks, I need to spend some of this actual stash to go to war with these people, right? If I absolutely decided that I needed to go to war, then I'm like, well, the war can't last forever because I'm going to run out of gold. But imagine if you can just create the money out of nowhere. If you could just print the money out of nowhere. Now you have wars that last 14 years. Because if you can create the money out of nowhere, you could buy as many guns as you want. You could buy as much ammo as you want. You could pay as many soldiers as you want. Right? So you realize like money's kind of the underlying problem with everything. Everything's a downstream of money. Right? So if you have actual money, you're going to think twice or 3 times before you spend it. Is this worth it? I want a Rolls Royce Cullinan. I know if I were to take any of that Bitcoin, if I were to take, what's a Cullinan worth now? Like probably, I don't know, however many Bitcoin, right? Let's say it's 10 Bitcoin. If I were to take that 10 Bitcoin and buy a Cullinan, the value of the Cullinan is going down for a fact. The value of the Bitcoin is going up for a fact. Right? It's going to make me think twice about, I'm not about to give up something going up for something going down. It makes you look at consumption different, right? And you start to realize, like, that's kind of the whole point. You just need to spend and spend and spend and keep spending and keep earning and keep spending, so you never stop and think, what the fuck is money? Does this make sense, man? All right, the next part that I want to talk to you guys about is being diluted, all right? So what your money is, it's a proxy for your time and your energy. So imagine you wake up in the morning, you get in your car, you sit in traffic. That's an hour to get to work, unpaid. Then you work for 8 hours. They don't even pay you for the lunch. Get back in your car, drive back in traffic, another hour, unpaid. It's 10 hours of your time, right? In exchange, they give you $100, right? That $100 represents 10 hours of your time, right? That kind of makes sense, right? Everybody kind of understands that. Now, here's the thing. You can never get that time back, right? You will never in your life get that time back, right? So you're like, I got this $100 though. So the $100 is a proxy for your time. Now imagine if they keep printing off money. Now imagine somebody else got $100 for doing absolutely nothing from the same people who paid you, right? So they give you $100 for your 10 hours, but then they just magically snap their fingers and give $100 to somebody else who did nothing, who sat at their house all day. That would be them disrespecting your time, stealing your time, right? Now, let me find me something, hold on. All right, so you want to store your money into something that's not being diluted, right? Where they're not just going to keep making more because it's going to steal your time from you. The time that you put in, you need that to stay. Where's that? All right. So here's your 10 hours. Boom. There's your 10 hours. Matter of fact, this is like, we'll say this is $5,000. This is $5,000 and it represents your month at work. All the time, the energy, the stupid ass meetings, everything, right? Now, your money in dollars, right? So this is your $5,000 you worked all month for, right? You couldn't see your kids because you were at work. You were sitting in stupid ass meetings. And then this is the Federal Reserve creating more money. You had to work hard for your money and they just make it. And this water faucet never turns off, right? So your $5,000 now is worth $4,000. Now it's worth $3,000, right? It's still $5,000, but when you go spend it, it's worth less and less and less. And the next year goes by and it's worth a little less. What you can buy from the grocery store, a little less, 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 a little less. Okay, now we have COVID, so we need to print off a bunch of money. So they turn the money printer back on, right? And now it's worth a little less and a little less and a little less. Now, the reason why it's worth less and less and less is because if you wanted to go buy something from the store and they're like, give me a cup of Gatorade, and you show up with this, they're going to be like, I don't know if that's Gatorade or not. That looked like water. So you need 10 of these to pay for what one used to pay for because your money was diluted, right? But this money printer never turns off. And then eventually it gets to the point where it's nothing. It's worth nothing. So this is where the money is headed. It's headed towards being worth nothing. So now when you want to go buy something, they're like, that's not real Gatorade. So you owe me 30 of these cups if you want to buy whatever you used to buy for one. Does that make sense, y'all? This is called dilution. You're being diluted. Your money is worth nothing, right? But it used to be tied to gold. Therefore, it was worth something. All right? Your money used to be tied to gold. Therefore, it was worth something. So that money printer, I'm about to show you what it looks like digitally. So if I'm a country and my money is tied to gold and I want to expand, I only got a few options. One, I need to trade with another country that has gold. Two, I need to run in their shit. If I run in their shit and go to war, I can take whatever they got, right? Both of those things require time, energy, effort, and money. I need to trade for it. I need to go to war, right? The other thing that I could do is I could create a second layer. Here's my gold, all the gold I have. Now I'm going to create these dollars, and I can print these dollars off, but they need to be equal to how much gold I have. And then once you break this, which we did in 1971, so now the dollar's not connected to anything, you could just print as much as you want. And then you can go to other countries and say, hey, let me buy that oil from you. It's like having a magic genie, dog, just walking around with a magic genie. All right, you walk around with a magic genie, you say, hey, boom, give me 30 grand. Hey, let me get your apartment. Hey, let me get your car. Let me get this. You'll end up with all the resources. If you have the money printer, you'll end up with all the resources, right? That's what America did. That's why we're the wealthiest country in the world, because we have access to the money printer. All right. Not only do we have access to the money printer, but we had to find a way to get other countries to use our money. Right. So we go, all right, we got this dollar. It's not backed by shit, but we need other people to use it. So we tell Iraq, like, hey, sell your oil in dollars only and we'll protect you from Iran. They're like, all right, bet. So now when Brazil wants to buy oil from Iraq, that has nothing to do with America, right? But they say, hey, we need you to get some dollars first because we're protecting them from Iran. Now, the year of 2000, Iraq goes, man, y'all keep making more and more of these dollars. I'm going to sell my oil in something else, right? I'm going to sell my oil in something else because y'all keep making all these dollars, bro. I'm losing my value. Let me sell this oil in euro. So boom, Iraq sells their oil in euro. And then what happened? Within 1 year, 9/11 magically happens and we run in their shit. Boom. Overthrow the government. The army dismantles. We take all the oil. Come on, man. This shit is deep, bro. These people have been fucking around with your money, with your wealth, with your time for a long time. Way before I got here, way before you got here. Right? And all it's doing is just stealing from people. All right, look. This is that money printer that I was telling y'all about. The faucet. When this number starts going backwards, maybe I'll sell some Bitcoin. Until then, fuck no. Right? When that number goes under, I don't know, 10 trillion, maybe I'll sell some Bitcoin. It's never going to happen. That number is never going backwards. Right? It's never going backwards. Now, all of politics is people fighting for access to that money printer. Because remember, the money printer is a magic genie. So think about the book of Eli, but instead of somebody having the Bible, which is all the knowledge, imagine that they have the money printer. If the book of Eli, if they were walking around looking for the money printer and one person had it, it'd be the same effect. Right? So this is the way politics work. Right? So you have this big cloud up here, right? It's called the money printer, the Federal Reserve, not part of the U.S. government at all. Then you have the government itself, and the government is made up by, these two major ruling parties, right? What they're fighting for is access to the money printer, right? That's what they're fighting for. They're fighting for so when somebody says, I'm going to create a program that makes all of education free for everybody. And then we, the people, go, what? All the education is going to be free? Let me vote for this person. How are they going to make the education free? They're going to create some type of bill. They're going to borrow a shitload of money and they're going to pay off the universities. So they need to borrow the money to pay the universities to make everything free. So us as the people, we go, oh shit, man, I'm voting for this person because everything's going to be free. Well, education is going to be free. Right? But they borrowed more money went into the ecosystem. Now the cost of living goes up. And the other side, so that's what one side says, doesn't matter, red or blue, doesn't fucking matter. Now the other side says, well, if you vote for me, I'm going to sign a bill that says that grocery stores can't raise the prices of their products and services. So half of the people in the country go, what? I'm voting for that. That's more important than free education. Right? So what they're going to have to do is borrow a bunch of money, pay off all the farmers, pay off everybody who's in the assembly line to get us things from farmers, right? That's where most of our food comes from, but we have to pay them, right? And then what's going to happen is now everything at the grocery store is free, but then everything else goes up because they have to borrow money. So all they're doing is just making promises of what they're going to do with the money printer. If you get access to the money printer, that's as close as being God on earth as you can possibly have, right? Money is a proxy for your time and your energy. All right. So let's go into the animal kingdom. Let's say like a cheetah and a gazelle. If a cheetah wants to eat, it needs to run and catch some food, right? It needs to spend its energy and its time chasing food around. So when it has that food, you know, it spent its energy to get it. Or maybe it caught like a dead gazelle or, you know, something that was sick or something. But imagine in the animal kingdom where all these insects, animals, everything they have to find a way to eat, right? So they have to spend their energy and their time to find a way to eat. Imagine if there were an animal that could snap its finger and all of a sudden there's a deer right here laying at my feet. I didn't have to spend any time or any money. I just go like this and now there's a deer at my feet and I'm going to eat it. That would make that animal God in comparison to the other animals. Like, bro, you just broke the law of everything in the universe. You didn't have to spend any any energy to get food, right? So the ability to print money and force people to use that money that you just printed makes you damn near God on earth. And our government gave the right for someone to do that away. We gave that to somebody else, and now we're enslaved to them. Does that make sense? So imagine this house. I've been on my journey for 15 years. I started when I was 18. I'm 33. I've been on this journey for 15 years. So if it took me 15 years of my time, energy, effort, I had to go fight in a war, I had to serve in the army, I had to build all these businesses, deal with everybody, blah, 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 blah. This house represents 15 years of my time, energy, and effort. Imagine somebody else can log into a computer and go like this. And now they have the money to buy this house or even a bigger house or every house on the block by doing this. That damn near makes them God, bro. Right? So eventually, as you're learning all this stuff I'm trying to teach you, you go, all right, I'm not storing my money in anything that people can finesse me out of. If you can snap your fingers and make more of it while I'm asleep, I don't want it because you're robbing me. If you broke into my house to rob me, we gonna go to war. But if I'm asleep and you just do this, it's the same shit. You still robbing me. So I don't want to store my money into anything that you could rob me with. And that includes stocks, if you think about it. Right? So think about it. Stocks are just like, a proxy of ownership in a company. And the stock can get so high that the company says, let's issue more stocks. They're diluting you. Issuing more stocks is issuing more money in a way, right? So if you own 10% of a company because you bought 10% of all the outstanding shares, and then they double the amount of shares that are out there, they just diluted you. Now you only own 5% of the company. Now they can outvote you into anything. You were owning too much. So it makes you start to think like, not only do I not want to store my money, the time and the energy that I spent into something that you can dilute me out of, right? Which is dollars. I'm looking at the stock market different because now the board of directors at any given moment can decide, let's issue more shares. They issue more shares, they dilute you, right? Or another thing too is the entire stock market is propped up by that money printer. Because remember I was saying all that money is going to keep coming, the faucet? Well, that faucet needs to find a home. All this new money that we print, it needs to find a home. And where is it most likely to find a home? Stocks and real estate. That's why when the entire economy shut down in 2020, the stock market went crazy. Because all this new money was finding its home. We print off 20% of all the money in America were printed during COVID. And that money found a home somewhere. So if nobody's going on trips, no one's going to Disneyland, no one's going to Six Flags, no one's buying new cars, but the stocks that represent Disneyland, represent Ford, represent wherever, are going up. How? No one's even at Disneyland to spend money, bro. How did the stock just double or triple? Because it's propped up by all this new money that we just put into the economy, right? So if you're an everyday worker and you own a barbecue spot, you ain't getting none of that money. But the barbecue stock the barbecue franchise that's listed on the stock market, they're going to get some of that money by all the new money being in the ecosystem being put into the stock market, right? Does that make sense? So if you go look at the U.S. stock market, of course, it's propped up to go up, right? The more money we print, the more it'll find its home in the market. This is why people say just put your money in S&P 500. There's nothing to think about, right? It's rigged to go up. We print more money, stocks go up. We print more money, real estate goes up. But now you have to think about the maintenance or the leakage in real estate. Okay, cool, you buy a house, or you might even buy a second house to rent it out, but now you have to deal with the human problem. People are going to tear your shit up. People are going to get laid off from their job. You got to pay property taxes, all these things, right? So one day, once you get deep enough down this rabbit hole, you're going to say, nah, bro, I'm going to store my money into something that people could not finesse me out of. And that's my savings account. And as other people, because I might have had this theory 2021, somebody else might have had this theory in 2015, but you're going to have this theory eventually. And the next person is going to have this theory eventually, right? Because what's going to happen is we're all going to go, oh, like y'all who are my age, you used to be able to buy a can of soda for 25 cents, right? That's $1.69 now for that same can of soda. And you're going to realize, like, damn, the system is created to keep sending the cost of living higher. Assets are going to go higher too. That's why if you don't own assets and you're just working, you end up being poor. Right? So as I start realizing this, I sold off the majority of my rental properties. Y'all see, I talked about that. I sold off my rental properties at like Bitcoin's like 23,000. That money's doubled already. Right? And now I could just, it's sitting in a Bitcoin. I have no property taxes to pay on my Bitcoin. I have no maintenance. I have no Section 8 vouchers I need to get filled out. None of that stuff. It's just sitting and it's doubled. None of that property would have doubled by now. Right? So other people are going to catch on, and other people are catching on. This is why now you can buy Bitcoin through the stock market with the ETFs and stuff. Everyone's starting to catch on. Bitcoin solving a problem that everybody has. Right? Now, most of y'all, hopefully you guys are buying and listening. But for those who are like, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but you're not. You'll eventually buy Bitcoin, but you'll be buying in when it's 5 million a coin. The same way some people caught this shit at $2. And they're like, yeah, the people who caught this at $2, $10, $100, they understood the economy and they understood cryptography very early. So in 2008, you'd probably have to be like 25, 30, 35, 40 years old. You understood it right away. We're young adults here, right? So we're walking into like, okay, what's the economy? What's the market? What are the assets? What's making them go up? Blah, blah, blah. And eventually that shit leads you to Bitcoin. Right? That's why I stopped trading individual stocks. That's why I stopped investing in individual stocks. That's why I don't care about anything that isn't Bitcoin. Because I caught the whole game. I figured it out, right? I didn't do it by myself. A lot of people have been putting in research, but I figured it out. I'm like, oh, this is what people have been telling us, right? The Austrian School of Economics have been telling us this since the 1930s. Does that make sense? 170. You got to go down the rabbit hole, man. You have to go down the rabbit hole. You have to learn about this stuff. Now, if you're too lazy to learn about this stuff, that's on you. If you're too busy to learn about this stuff, that's on you, right? They were saying, I think Henry Ford says, like, the man who works all day has no time to get rich. You too busy, that's on you. If you don't want to swap out an audio book for the music while you drive in your car, that's on you. I had to make those sacrifices already, and I keep making those sacrifices, so that's on you, right? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Like, if you were to ignore all this and no one's going to come knock on your door and be like, you read that book yet? I don't do that to people I meet. I don't do that to people that I know. They say, hey, what's this Bitcoin stuff about? Read this book. Next time I turn, hey, you read that book? No? Shit. Who you got winning the game tonight, bro? You want to talk about football? Let's talk about football, because I'm not about to waste my time, nigga. You won't read a fucking book. What you want to talk about? You want to talk about music? Let's talk about music, bro, because you won't read a fucking book. We can talk about dumb shit if you want to. Whatever it is that niggas want to talk about, because I'm not forcing nobody to learn nothing. You're just going to see me get wealthier and wealthier and wealthier and wealthier and wealthier and wealthier and wealthier. Right? There's a saying in Bitcoin that says, like, you come for the number go up. Like, you come because you want to buy Bitcoin and watch the number go up, but you stay for the revolution. And I think that's dope. You're like, yo, fuck this system. I found a hill worth dying on. Fuck the system. These are some books I recommend. Screenshot that. All right. So I made public buys on Bitcoin when it was $15,000. Scroll down my Instagram, you'll see it. $16,000, $17,000, $18,000, $19,000, $25,000, $30,000, $65,000. I made all the public buys. If you too busy, you know what's gonna happen to this Gatorade. You already know. You can ignore this shit if you want to. You could turn that shit off and go watch football if you want to. You could turn it off and go listen to Rod Wave album if you want to. You know this Gatorade's turning into water, whether you pay attention or not. All right? I'm out. All the information and shit, it'd be in the Wealth Squad, man. Every time I buy something in the Wealth Squad, the videos that I'm watching, the books that I'm reading, it's all in the Wealth Squad, bro. If you in the Wealth Squad, you would have made your money back and some. So, hey, if it ain't worth the $30, $40, $50, that's on you. Again, I'm going to stay on this journey. All right? I'm out. I'll catch you on the Wealth Squad.